immigration with Justin Trudeau, obviously they're trying to retaliate. They're trying to do a complete 180 to fix a problem that they inevitably just caused. And it's been snowballing ever since. And now because of an upcoming election, now because the Liberal Party and Justin Trudeau are fearful that they're going to lose this election, judging by the polling numbers, they're going to try and do a 180. But here's the interesting part about this, is that back in 2015, so back when Justin Trudeau was running to be prime minister and got elected, Table Salt, this guy or woman, I don't know exactly who this person is, put this together. It said, new unearthed video of Justin Trudeau in 2015 talking about immigration. We need to be more open and welcoming, and that security is not an excuse. This is how we ended up with 11 times more refugees, rent doubling, and food security emergencies. So this is what he said back in 2015 when he was running for prime minister, debating with Stephen Harper, who was the prime minister beforehand, and Tom Mulcair, who was the head of the NDP. And this is what he said about migrants and refugees coming in.
The past weeks that in the case of refugees, Canada is not doing enough. And this is something that Mr. Harper has unfortunately done a number of times. I mean, he likes to talk about standing up against tyrants and dictators and against terrorists, but you know who stand up against dictators and terrorists? Families fighting to keep their family together, hoping for a better life for them. And they cross the oceans and they make it to Canada. And what does Mr. Harper do? He takes away their health care. The fact is, we need to once again be a country that is open and welcoming. Yes, we need to be concerned about security, but we don't take that as the excuse to close our doors. In years past, whether it was Joe Clark, a Conservative Prime Minister, who brought in tens of thousands of Vietnamese boat people, whether it was other governments who welcomed in people, who built, who contributed to this country, we need to once again be the open, generous country, not naive, making sure we're doing security right, but not using it as an excuse to do less than we should, than the vast majority of Canadians, including mayors and premiers, feel we should.
Now, what's interesting about that statement is I agree with a lot of it, but he didn't follow to that principle. He did not follow to that principle. Because I understand, yes, immigration plays a huge factor into the foundation of Canada, into the foundation of any nature or any nation, is when you bring people in, and, you know, my ancestors, your ancestors all came in from different parts of the world. They collaborated together. They found some sort of legal process to come into this country and were able to contribute as much as possible. But there was a balance. And that's the thing that Trudeau back in 2015 would say about this, but compared to Trudeau now, has completely shit the bed on, is that there needs to be a balance, that there needs to be a system coordinated so that the amount of people that are coming in, we have the resources for, we have the abilities to provide them shelter or homes or some place for them to live, that we can coordinate so they're not, stuck on the streets of Toronto sleeping bags all over Yonge Street. There's a coordination involved in this. And Justin Trudeau did not do any of that. He just poured these people in, saying we need a huge shift in the labor market because we shut everything down during COVID. Brought these people in undocumented, and now he is now forced to cook the books on the amount of people they poured in undocumented, without legal stature, without the process, without means necessary, and he's trying to do a complete 180. So I agree with the statements that he's saying here, and that's probably one of the reasons he got elected in 2015, but that's not the Trudeau that we know right now. So let's hear this again.
The past weeks that in the case of refugees, Canada is not doing enough. And this is something that Mr. Harper has unfortunately done a number of times. I mean, he likes to talk about standing up against tyrants and dictators and against terrorists, but you know who stand up against dictators and terrorists? Families fighting to keep their family together, hoping for a better...
By the way, as he says, Canada's not doing enough for refugees in these war-torn countries. How about, is there any statement involving our foreign policy that creates more of these refugees, that creates more of these migrants that are flowing from country to country to seek refuge from areas that we have detrimented, that we have attacked, that we have just destroyed their entire homeland for natural resources, for business opportunities, just like we did with Iraq, just like we did with Afghanistan, just like we did with Syria, just like we did with Libya, just like we did with Yemen, just like we're doing right now with the people of Gaza, just like we're doing right now with the people of Lebanon, just like right now we're doing with the people of Ukraine. So, yes, Canada's not doing enough for refugees because we're adding more refugees in a crisis and fluxing them away from their homeland, destroying every ounce of livability in their native land, and transferring to a new country and telling them to adapt. So maybe that's a good step right there. It's to check our foreign policy. And we need to harsh down on these warmongers that are creating this problem to begin with. That would be a good first step. But that didn't get mentioned at all.
Better life for them. And they cross the oceans and they make it to Canada. And what does Mr. Harper do? He takes away their health care. The fact is, we need to once again be a country that is open and welcoming. Yes, we need to be concerned about security, but we don't take that as the excuse to close our doors.
So, what I would say to it, because he's trying to attack Stephen Harper, our former prime minister, that he took away health care for these refugees. And again, I would say that's a good, valid point. But the point that he should be bringing up is, why are we creating a process that allows these people that want to contribute to Canada, that want to add to society, that want to start a new life from wherever they come from, why are we not helping and assisting that process into becoming Canadian citizens so that they can receive health care, so that they can contribute to our universal basic coverage, instead of just forking over healthcare initiatives, and far better than Canadian citizens right now. They're getting better healthcare treatments that we're dealing with right now. For me to call up my doctor, my family doctor, it almost takes months. And yet, somehow, these migrants that are pouring into the country, that are being exploited for cheap labor, oh yeah, we'll see you right away. So that's something that needed to be addressed in this situation. But Justin Trudeau, remember, Justin Trudeau is a good little boy for the WEF. And the WEF likes open borders. The WEF definitely likes hearing sounds like this. Oh, we need to open our doors. We need to bring more of these people in. Why? Why would they care about open borders? Why would they care about bringing these people to different territories? Because if we slush people together, it's easier to control. It's hard to control 293 whatever nations individually. But hey, if we just, blow up here and blow up there and take all these resources, bring them into Canada, United States, UK, all these other territories, it's easier to control them. It's easier to get them involved in the population, and then we can dominate that population. That's why so many of these globalists talk about diversity. Diversity. We need diversity. We need to bring more of these people in so we can take over that population.
In years past, whether it was Joe Clark, a conservative prime minister who brought in tens of thousands of Vietnamese boat people, whether it was other governments who welcomed in people, who built, who contributed to this country, we need to once again be the open, generous country, not naive, making sure we're doing security right, but not using it as an excuse to do less than we should, than the vast majority of Canadians, including mayors and premiers, feel we should.
Mr.
Again, as he's talking about, we still got to recognize security, there is over thousands of fraudulent visas being accepted into Canada that are not being investigated. There is human trafficking allegations in BC that are not being investigated. There's illegal border crossings and child trafficking across the portways in BC that are not being investigated. So all the stuff he's saying here, it sounds good. It's something probably I would be saying about immigration, but it's not being commended. It's not being rolled out. It's not being phased out. In fact, it's worse. He's just saying, forget the security, bring everybody in. Bring everybody in, don't have checks and balances, don't have accountability, which is what Pierre Poilievre right now is stating about it, is that he wants checks and balances. He wants accountability. He wants mathematical figures because it comes down to math. When you add in 1.5 million migrants and pour them into certain towns and cities, are those certain towns and cities going to be able to allocate that population increase? Simple mathematics. But here you have Justin Trudeau, the drama teacher, now, Prime Minister for almost a decade now, back in 2015, not even acknowledging his own conviction of immigration. Not even stating his own promise. And that's why you're seeing right now he's doing a complete 180, try to cover his ass because the election's coming up and he knows his poll numbers are going to bite him. So, oh my God, now we got to, temporarily reduce the amount of exploitees that we bring into this country for cheap labor without any real rational accountability or any action or call to action about measures of protecting the border. I would argue, and here's an idea, this is just my theory, that, hey, maybe instead of sending all these Canadian troops around the world to pretend to be the world's police, to try to pretend to be part of NATO, how about we bring the troops back home so they can actually defend part of Canada and defend part of the border? That'd be an idea. Then we can actually say we have defense. Then we can actually say that our military, instead of being part of a force of tyrannicalness, being the world's police and dominating over countries to steal their resources, we could actually have some say into, defense, defending the border. Then they wouldn't be in harm's way. Then it would actually be cheaper. They can actually see their families more. But I'm just a crazy kook. That's just my idea. Of course, people like Mark Miller and Justin Trudeau, on the other hand, are worried about collapsing economy. They're worried about a recession that they have created. So in order to save their ass, they're going to bring in illegal, undocumented, unaccountable, unchecked, just random people into this country. And predominantly a lot of them, military age. I know that sounds crazy to mention, but when it comes to demographics, that is concerning. Like, why would you be bringing in and busing in and flying in? It's not just people crawling through the border. It's being bussed. It's being flown in predominantly military-aged individuals. Why would that be the case? For cheap labor, for military recruitment goals, and to cause more chaos on the streets. Because the oligarchy, the establishment, thrives on chaos. The more chaos that's on the streets, the more of a chance they can clamper down and control and beg for people for authoritarianism.